artist, and welcome to Miss Langdon's Tips for Being an Awesome Watercolor Painter. So, if you would like to experiment with some painting today, couple things. One, I have special paper. It's called watercolor paper, and it is very different than painting on just regular copy paper or drawing paper. And I'm even going to show you the difference. So, the first thing we do is always the same. We write down our name. Make sure you write your name before you ever paint and your teacher code. So, flip that over. Remember your name first, because after you start painting, then, well, you can't really flip it over now, can you? Now, you might just want to experiment today, or if you want to make a picture, you need to draw it first. For instance, maybe I'll just make a heart here with my pencil. I don't know. Okay, everybody, I'm ready. So, the watercolor paints will usually be in this type of form. They're called cakes, but it's not the kind of cake you eat. So, they might look messy. That's on you. You got to try to keep them clean. So, sometimes people are like, Miss Langdon, these look dry. Well, friend, you gotta wake them up a bit. So remember that when you paint, you're gonna have a dry painter's towel. You're going to have a bowl of water, and we may or may not be using some damp towels that are for if you get a mess on your fingers or something. So anyway, you gotta wake these paints up. Wake up, everybody. I'm putting a drop of water in you all just to get you woken up. And then when you wanna paint, it's not ready yet. You gotta do this. Tickle, tickle, wiggle, wiggle. You just need a little bit on your paint brush. This is not the kind of paint that you scoop up. That's why these dishes are so tiny, because you don't need much. And then you can go ahead and you can paint your picture. Now remember to hold your paintbrush on the colored part, not the silver part. The silver part is the danger zone. You're in danger of getting paint all over yourself. So push your sleeves up, hold it on the colored part, and also remember, she is a ballerina. She loves to dance on her tippy toes. She does not like to scoot around on her bottom. So again, this is watercolor paper. It is special for making watercolor paints. And you can see that it went from dark all the way to light. So that's because I had more paint on my brush, and this was where the paint kind of ran out, but I still had lots of water on my brush. So there's lots of different techniques you can also use. One thing, oh, P.S., this isn't meant to be super duper dark, all right? It's meant to be a little bit lighter. There's a technique called wet on wet. You can get your paper wet and then tickle, tickle, wiggle, wiggle, and you could put wet paint on wet paper. And it makes a totally different effect. Very light, it's very good for like sky, for instance. That's a good thing to do. You can, again, I already tried it on dry paper. You can try to mix colors. Tickle, tickle, wiggle, wiggle. Oh gosh, I didn't even remember to go over how I wash my brush so well. So, just a little bit of review, folks. You swoosh, don't splash. You wipe, don't whack. And then usually you would blot, except watercolor, you kind of need some water on your brush, so you might want to just skip the blotting. So, tickle, tickle, wiggle, wiggle, and you can continue to make your experimental, what is this? Watercolor. Tickle, tickle, wiggle, wiggle. Don't mix paints in the little dishes. That isn't very nice. But I'm not done, friends. So, this paper is awesome, once again, for watercolor paper. It is literally made for watercolor paints. This paper, though, the copy paper, is not made. Tickle, tickle, wiggle, wiggle. If you paint on this, gosh, well, I guess you can't really tell the difference right now, but I guarantee it is not as nice of paper as this, okay? Maybe that's a good experiment for you. You get a piece of watercolor paper and you get a piece of regular copy paper. Try to paint the same picture and see which one turns out better. Okay, you might have noticed, though, I also have this special type of colored pencil. It's not a regular colored pencil. It says watercolor pencil. Oh my gosh, this one's a prang. I just hit the jackpot, everybody. Prang is the best type of pencil, so if you get one of those, you are a lucky duck. To use these, there are two different techniques. One technique is that you draw. Maybe I'm just gonna go around my heart for a minute. And then you use water on top of it, and it will turn into paint. Another technique is to wet the paper first, then use the colored pencil. And again, this isn't a regular colored pencil, so if you get one of these out, you're gonna need to make sure you put it back in the correct spot. And I'll probably go over how to make sure to clean up your hands and all that jazz. The last technique you could do is, if it's sharp enough, you can dip it in the water and then you can write with it. And it feels very different. It feels like I'm ice skating almost. All right, everybody, I'm gonna go ahead and stop. I'm gonna make sure this gets put onto the drying rack, and it's time for you to get started. Happy arting today.